Good evening. Welcome to the Big Story. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Sean Yao.
Tonight's big stories. The Philippines and China figure in another aerial confrontation over disputed islands for a second time this week, just when the chief of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command is in Manila for high-level talks.
Vince Dizon sets out as the new Secretary of the Transportation Department and on his first day on the job suspends the cashless payment system on expressways, calling it anti-poor.
And Senate President Cheese Escudero relents and says he will consult the other senators to see whether they are open to holding an all-member caucus to tackle the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte.
Well, there's been another incident out in the disputed waters, this time in the Kalayaan group of islands, otherwise known as Spratly Islands. China was first to issue a statement about it and said that it drove away 3 Philippine aircraft, a C-208 and an N-22, that quote-unquote illegally intruded into the airspace near the Spratlys. China calls that area Nansha Islands. The incident happened yesterday, February 20, and Beijing's Southern Theater Command accused Manila of repeatedly stigmatizing, hyping, and smearing China's legitimate claims.
Later on in the day, Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson Commodore J. Tariela posted on X confirming that the PCG, together with the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, or BFAR, conducted a maritime domain awareness flight in the Spratlys. They used 2 aircraft that departed from Puerto Princesa. Tariela said during the flight, the BFAR aircraft consistently challenged the illegal presence of Chinese maritime forces. He also said they documented the following sightings: 6 Chinese maritime militia vessels in Rosal Reef, also known as Iroquois Reef. And over in Pagasa Island, there was at least 1 China Coast Guard vessel with bow number 5101 and over 50 maritime militia boats. But what's worrisome is that this is the second such aerial encounter in the South China Sea between Manila and Beijing. On February 18, the same BFAR aircraft, the C-208, was patrolling over the Scarborough Shoal when a People's Liberation Army helicopter flew dangerously close to it, coming even as close as just 3 meters away. Tariela said the chopper also tailed the BFAR aircraft, which he says is a blatant violation of international aviation rules. But China responded angrily, saying, and I quote, "We warn the Philippines that this clumsy trick is doomed to fail."
Coincidentally, the commander of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, Admiral Samuel Paparo, is in Manila for high-level talks this week. He was received by General Romeo Browner Jr. at Camp Aguinaldo today, where they discussed defense cooperation, modernization, and regional security. In a post by U.S. Ambassador to the Philippines, Mary Kay Carlson, Paparo could also be seen meeting with Defense Secretary Gilbert Gibo Teodoro, DFA Secretary Enrique Manalo, and National Security Advisor Eduardo Año. The AFP says the visit demonstrates the enduring strength of Philippines-U.S. ties and their unwavering commitment to regional peace and security.
Okay, let's try to get more details on this. Our first guest tonight is Philippine Ambassador to the United States, Jose Manuel Babe Romualdez. Good evening, Ambassador. Welcome back to the Big Story. I think I've got you on the line. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much. Good evening, Stuart.
Thanks for making time for us. We know you're very busy. First off, let's take off from Admiral Paparo's visit. Were you aware or did you participate in these high-level talks? And secondly, help us understand the significance of his visit here at this point in time. The second, I believe, since he was appointed last year.
Well, actually, Admiral Paparo is here on an official visit also to celebrate or to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the American Cemetery and also the September invasion or war that culminated in the liberalization of Manila. So that he's here on that official visit. But I did participate in the meeting with Secretary Manalo this afternoon, and we had a very good, cordial meeting with the Admiral. And this visit obviously is one of the many visits that the Admiral intends to have here in the Philippines. After all, we do have a very strong relationship, defense relationship with the United States.
Ambassador, I wonder if you could share some more details of that meeting with DFA Secretary Enrique Manalo. What was talked about? I know it's in the themes of cooperation, defense cooperation, modernization, and regional security, but did anything concrete come out of it?
Well, basically, it's just the assurance from the United States that the mutual defense treaty that we have with them continues to be ironclad, as stated by the former administration of President Trump, the first administration, and then continued by the Biden administration, and now the second administration, or Trump 2.0, is confirming that relationship. It's basically just a reassurance that this relationship will remain strong and solid as it's always been.
Do we know if what's happening to the $500 million in military aid that the Biden administration had committed to the Philippines? We haven't heard anything more about it since President Trump took over.
No, that's already been, that's already been, the waiver that normally is required now with this new administration has already been granted, so that will continue. And we're going to be working on the succeeding $500 million that we will supposed to be getting for the modernization of our armed forces. So we're working on that one to be approved by the U.S. Congress.
Okay, so
any idea what the timeline is, Ambassador, for that one?
Well, the next Congress, which we're going to be working with them, I think President Trump is going to address the State of the Union on March 4, and shortly after, we will be working with our friends in the U.S. Congress for the second tranche of the $2.5 billion that was supposedly planned for the modernization of our armed forces.
Okay, so it's intact.
Okay, Secretary Babe, I was just wondering, was there any other issue that was discussed apart from the continued partnership, the continued military aid, and the military exercises in terms of foreign affairs? Is there any other pressing concern apart from the South China Sea?
Well, I don't think there is any really major concern, except that we are expecting to have a number of visits in the coming months ahead of us. The one thing for sure is that we are planning to continue with the bilateral strategic dialogue that we have with the United States. We're planning to have that, and we probably will host it in Manila. And then we're also planning to have potentially a visit coming from some of the cabinet secretaries, perhaps the Secretary Rubio and Secretary Hegseth may be coming to the Philippines when they do go to the Asian region. So these are things that are being planned, but of course nothing has been confirmed until as we get closer to the planned visits of these secretaries.
Anything about the Luzon Economic Corridor? There was that visit from U.S. Trade Secretary Gina Raimondo last year. This was much bandied about. I also attended some economic outlooks from a lot of investment houses here, and they were looking very much forward into that, and that was also factored into their economic analyses, into their predictions and their forecasts. Can we still count on that, to see the light of day?
Oh, yes, very much so. In fact, I just had a conversation with the head of the Luzon Corridor, the economic corridor that is being planned. And this is Helena Matza, who is still now heading that. And I believe that this is going to continue. Because remember, there are other countries that will be coming in, like Japan, and some of our other allies that will be coming in to invest in that Luzon Economic Corridor.
Do we know if there's a dollar commitment yet, Ambassador, as far as the United States' engagement with the Luzon Economic Corridor? Is there a specific dollar commitment?
I don't have the exact figure. I don't have the exact figure, but I'm pretty sure it's quite a very fairly large amount, because that's really covering an entire portion of the Luzon Corridor. So it's a project that is obviously going to be very important for not only for our economic relationship with the United States, but the economic relationship with other countries as well.
Ambassador, what about a potential meeting between President Trump and President Marcos? 3 weeks ago, around January 30, Secretary Manalo did say it's still in the early stages, in the initial phase, but President Marcos did say he wanted to discuss immigration policies, such as cooperation with the U.S. Where are we in terms of that, Ambassador?
Well, the White House has informed us that President Trump will definitely see President Marcos, but it's just really a question of, again, the timing. As you know, there's a lot of things going on in the United States now, especially on the other side of the world. So we're expecting that to be obviously right now in the mind of the White House. So we'll just wait until they inform us when it will be a good time for President Marcos to either go to Washington, D.C., or who knows. If President Trump comes to the Asian region, he may even come to the Philippines. That's always a possibility.
What's been your experience dealing with the White House this time around? I mean, the difference is that, President Trump has surrounded himself with other people this time around. You've got Elon Musk also, deciding on a lot of these policies. What's your personal experience?
I don't see really a problem if it's something that we should be concerned about. I think that especially with the National Security Advisor's Office, of which Secretary Teodoro and I had our first meeting very early on. It was only 2 weeks after President Trump was inaugurated. We were already there at the White House, and we came out of that meeting feeling good that it's not really going to be any major change in the way we interact with the administration of President Trump. Yeah, so, and knowing President Trump personally, I feel that our relationship is just as good as it was in the first Trump administration.
It hasn't been more difficult to try to get time in or try to get, schedule meetings within the White House, given that, he seems to have also become more transactional in terms of the foreign policy direction of the United States.
Well, I wouldn't want to really put it transactional. People are saying it's transactional, but it's more of, and I agree with it, that we should start thinking in ways on what is mutually beneficial for both countries. We cannot always look at the United States as a country that will always be giving, and it's mutual, and I think that that's the best way to look at these types of relationships.
Yeah, but
what's good for them is good for us.
Okay. Having said that, of course, you mentioned earlier after Red's first question, Ambassador, that this trip of Admiral Paparo here to the Philippines, which is the second since he has been appointed, it's mostly a reassurance type of trip. And I think a lot of Filipinos are actually looking for certainty, for assurances coming from the United States, at least with their promises in terms of military aid. I know you already said it earlier, but can we really be reassured that things will progress as if there has been no change in that?
What other reassurance can you have when you have all this attention being given to the Philippines by Secretary Marco Rubio, Secretary Hegseth calling their counterparts, and now Admiral Paparo coming to the Philippines, and then we have, of course, the meeting that we had at the White House. It's not really, like I said, assurance is not the right word. It is the fact that this is a continuing relationship that's been around for a very long time, and dealing with the new administration of President Trump is just as good as any other relationship that we've had in the past, even when we had major challenges during the time of President Duterte.
I guess it's the assurance, I guess, is President Trump himself mentioning the Indo-Pacific. So far, he hasn't. Yes, I get your point. Secretary Manalo has met with Secretary of State Marco Rubio on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference, and the two talked about deeper cooperation. And you're also right. Secretary Pete Hegseth has spoken to Secretary Teodoro, but the one person who hasn't actually mentioned Indo-Pacific is President Trump himself, and that's, I suppose, what Sean was alluding to.
Well, you can interpret it in any way you want to do it, but I'm the ambassador in Washington, D.C. What
Okay.
else am I going to tell you? Would you want me to tell you what you want to hear, or I'm just telling you what my experience is? And
Right,
I'm
right.
telling you that I know that it's in good shape. But if you want to insist on your idea, then what can I do?
But
Okay.
the high-level visits that you talked about, the ones that the high-level officers that are coming this way potentially in the next few months, are they just within the realm of defense, or are we also talking economic officers, economic?
No, of course,
cabinet
everything is
secretaries?
included. Economic and defense are two important aspects of our relationship with the United States, and I can see that it's going to continue, perhaps even better in the next couple of years during this administration of President Trump.
Well, Ambassador, I also wanted to get an update on the immigration crackdown of the second Trump administration in the U.S. Just yesterday, President Trump issued another executive order ending federal benefits for all illegal immigrants. Although it's not yet clear which benefits exactly will be cut, but I did see a report it could include infant assistance, even for pregnant women, for babies. How much will Filipinos be affected with that? And have you already seen an uptick of undocumented Filipinos seeking assistance from the Philippine Embassy in the U.S.?
Right now, we don't have the exact number, but we've had some inquiries coming from some of our Filipino kababayans, especially in California. But as I said, we're there. We're ready to assist them in every way we can, and the same advice is what we're giving. Is that if there's a legal path for you, then you should try to work on it now. And if there's none, then it's best that you leave the country voluntarily instead of being detained and processed for deportation.
And would you say, Ambassador, just in your experience relating to Pauline's question, would you say our kababayans over there in the United States have kind of calmed down or settled down a bit from the initial shock and the initial panic of the early days in the first EO?
Well, I wouldn't say they've calmed down, but I know that the fear is there. But keep telling them that this is a policy that was forthcoming, and that you just have to be prepared. I mean, everyone has rights. That's been pointed out by our volunteers from the Filipino American Lawyers Association that we've dealt with, that have come forward to try to give some good advice. But at the end of the day, what's still important is the fact that if you have a legal path, then it's best that you start working on it. And we will try to refer them to the people that can help them. And of course, even our DMV, our Department of Migrant Workers, are ready to help in every way they can.
Yes, Ambassador, I mean, you've repeatedly urged Filipinos to do it the right way in terms of acquiring legal citizenship in the U.S., but doesn't that usually take time, Ambassador? Acquiring citizenship in the U.S., I mean, what channels are available for our kababayans there?
No, well, I'm referring more of those that have been living in the United States for more than 5 years or so, working, and they probably have paid some taxes, and some of them may have not. They did not renew their work visas. Those are the ones that have a good chance of being able to stay in the United States. But those who have come in on tourist visas, then that would be a real major problem, because if you have come in the United States on a tourist visa, then you're overstaying and then you've broken the law. The likelihood of your being given a chance to stay in the United States is very, very slim. Of course, the worst is if you've come into the United States illegally completely, like those that have come in through the southern border of the United States. So that's almost impossible for you to. And needless to say, if you've committed any kind of crime and you're already been plotted, meaning to say you've been identified, that would be really a major problem.
But so far, you've not heard of any Filipinos getting caught up in the immigration raids. I believe they've done a.
There have been some, I understand, but we're not at liberty to disclose any of that. That's part of the policy of the immigration people that we've talked to in the United States. They've been helping. They've been very helpful to us because we're not in the bad list, so to speak. And this is why it's important for us to try to work with them so that those that are caught are not given a hard time.
Which cities are there that, if you're at liberty to say, Ambassador? We know that there have been raids in New York and some in the West Coast as well.
Yeah, many, of course, where there's a large number of Filipinos, large population. These are the places that normally you can be sure there'll be some Filipinos that there are raids that are being conducted.
And if it comes to
Anyway,
it,
I think I've given you enough time. I do have to go. I promised your producer that I was going to give you some time, and I think I've given you quite a bit.
you
I
have.
have a dinner right now.
Okay, we're going to let
Okay.
you go. Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for your
Ambassador.
time, Ambassador,
All
Philippine
right,
Ambassador to the United States, Jose Manuel Babe Romualdez.
Right, still on Donald Trump, he is copping a lot of flack online right now for likening himself to a king. In a post on Truth Social, he said that congestion pricing is dead. Manhattan and all of New York is saved. Long live the king. Trump was praising his own attempt at revoking New York City's congestion pricing scheme, which was actually recently reinstated. The White House then shared Trump's quote with a computer-generated image of Trump on a fake Time magazine cover, donning a golden crown. Behind him, the skyline of New York City. New York City Governor Kathy Hochul has since slammed Trump for the post and threatened to take the president to court. The White House Facebook page was also review-bombed by people who were alarmed by the post. Some leaving messages like, "No president is king. White House used to be an honorable place." "Let's hope the clowns don't burn down what's left of those hallowed halls," another person wrote. And "The tenants of this house should be evicted immediately."
Well, Trump's not the only one getting caught up in transport issues. New DOTR Secretary Vince Dizon assumed office today, and his first order to suspend once again the plan to make toll collections and expressways 100% cashless. Jared De La Peña has that report.
Vince Dizon hits the ground running as he formally assumed the post vacated by resigned Transportation Chief Jaime Bautista. His first order, suspend the implementation of the 100% cashless toll collection in expressways. According to the new Transportation Secretary, this needs more study.
Having a cashless system is not pro-poor. It is anti-poor. Why? Tayo siguro dito, kasi kayo, alam ko matataas ang sweldo nyo, kaya nyong mag-load sa Easy Trip tsaka sa Auto Sweep ng 2,000, 3,000, 5,000. Pero paano yung mga kababayan natin na sagad-sagad ang budget? Di ba? Hindi sila makakaload. Tingnan muna natin yung sistema. Di ba? Is there a way to make it more efficient? Okay ba? Lahat ba ng barrier gumagana? Lahat ba ng RFID nababasa? Di ba? Kasi kung may problema pa tayong gano'n at hindi pa halos perfecto yung sistema natin, baka hindi pa panahon para bigla-biglaan tayong mag-cashless.
Recall that the Toll Regulatory Board gave the cashless toll implementation the green light, supposedly starting March 15. The TRB has been informed about Dizon's decision, and so have San Miguel Corporation, which operates SLEX, Skyway, NLEX, and TPLEX, and the Metro Pacific Group, which operates NLEX, SCTEX, Cavitex, and the Cebu-Cordova Link Expressway. But the firms have yet to comment on the matter. In a statement last Wednesday, NLEX Corporation said it has invested almost 1.4 billion pesos in automatic license plate recognition cameras so that RFID tags in vehicles can be read more easily. Meantime, Dizon noted President Bongbong Marcos's marching order to fast-track infrastructure projects meant to improve the traffic situation. This is in the works, but the new DOTR chief also wants to focus on what can be fixed at once, such as the EDSA busway, additional train coaches, rehabilitation and privatization of regional airports, improvement of agricultural ports, construction of cruise terminals, and revamping of the Pasig River ferry system. Dizon's goal, make more roads walkable to lessen the need for transportation.
Ang paggawa ng bagong kalye, hindi yan ang ultimate solution. Ang ultimate solution is mass transit, high-capacity mass transit. That's the ultimate solution. And also, making the environment in the city conducive for people to walk. No, lalo na in this day and age where wellness is so important, especially to our young people, di ba? It's so important. But how can they walk when there is no infrastructure that will allow them to walk?
There will likewise be privatization under Dizon's leadership.
May gagawin tayong infrastruktura, airport, train, etc., mapapabayaan lang eh. After a few years, mapapabayaan eh. So I absolutely agree, and I really want to thank Secretary Jimmy for number one, for really leading this push to privatize. No, I mean, napakalaking bagay po ng privatization ng NAIA. No, and I think that has really set the tone.
And yes, the transport chief is not junking the PUV modernization program. But Dizon said he will welcome dialogue with jeepney operators and drivers.
Ang kailangan talagang kausapin natin dito ay yung mga transport workers, yung ating mga operator, yung ating mga driver. Kasi at the end of the day, kung ano ang dagdag na gastos, sila ang kailangan mag-bear nun eh. Sila ang sasalo nun eh. Kung meron din silang mga lehitimong concerns na kailangan pakinggan ng gobyerno.
No promises though from Secretary Dizon about finally solving the country's transport crisis.
We're not going to fix traffic in 5 years, maybe not even in 10 years. But we can do some things now to slowly alleviate the commuter and the motorist experience.
Dizon is bringing in his experience to the DOTR along with some undersecretaries. He hinted at tapping personalities with extensive know-how in the ins and outs of transport management. But Dizon was quick to clarify that some of Bautista's team will be retained in the DOTR. For News 5, Gerard de la Peña, we are One News.
Happened to solving traffic in 6 months. Now it's 5 to 10 years.
Let's get real. The subway.
That's a big leap from 6 months to 10 years. But okay.
That's a difference between a campaign promise and harsh reality.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, but coming up next, is Senate President Cheese Escudero softening his stance on calling a special session for the impeachment? We have the details of that when the big story returns. Keep it here. Welcome back. You're still watching The Big Story here on One News.
Senate President Cheese Escudero seems to be presenting a slightly softer stance on the impeachment. In a message sent to Senate reporters just today, Escudero said that he is now open to consulting his colleagues about an all-member caucus, but only if they want to and if they're available. He did also temper it by saying, I, however, disagree with him meaning Senator Coco Pimentel, that we can start trial during the recess when we are not in session. This may bring our actions into question before the courts. Prudence, as they say, is the better part of valor. Up until a few days ago, Escudero had been emphatic that they can only tackle the case in June, but Senate Minority Leader Pimentel has repeatedly prodded him to convene a special session. He has sent a letter to SP Chiz emphasizing the word forthwith in the rules for impeachment, suggesting too that the Senate can start trying the Vice President as early as March. Pimentel says he plans to send a second letter that will present evidence that the upper chamber as a legislative body does not need to be in session to act on the move to oust Sara.
Well, election season is in full swing, and the COMELEC says that President Bongbong Marcos has signed the law postponing the first parliamentary elections in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, otherwise known as BARM. According to the Commission on Elections, the president agreed that the BARM elections should take place on October 13 of this year. The palace has yet to confirm the report, although Marcos did recently certify the postponement measure as urgent. Initially, the plan was to hold the barn poll simultaneously with the midterm national and local elections in May. But the Supreme Court ruling that pulled Sulu out of the BARM posed a technicality issue, as 7 of the 80 seats in the parliament were supposed to be allocated for Sulu.
Meanwhile, the administration's senatorial bets campaigned in Negros Occidental today, the country's 6th most vote-rich province according to COMELEC data. President Marcos in 2022 won in the provincial capital of Bacolod, but lost to former Vice President Leni Robredo in the provincial race. The Alianza slate is pushing for a 12-0 win in the midterms, but say they are not going to be complacent.
In my experience in the past, no? So mahirap mag-predict, but what we're doing is that we're doing our best, and the President is helping us, and our colleagues.
Yes, zero, that's not out of hubris, that's out of arrogance and konting psychological warfare. Pandemoralize sa kalaban lang yun. Huwag kayo maniwalang kami mismo naniniwala magto-12-0.
We have to accept the fact that there is also a strong candidate in the other side na malalakas din. And yun nga, best effort lang yung kailangan namin gawin, double kayod at sabihin yung maganda namin programa para sa taong bayan. Sa amin naman dito sa Alyansa, ang priority namin ay yung mga mahihirap.
The Makabayan candidates also had a provincial sortie today and took their campaign to the heart of Duterte territory, Davao City. They went house to house talking about their advocacies, and among them, the fight against political dynasties.
At tingin ko marami rin sa ating mga kababayan sa Davao ang naghahangad na rin ng pagbabago. Katulad ng maraming lugar sa ating bansa na ayaw na ng political dynasties kung meron namang choice.
Mas maganda ang kanilang pagpangampanya. Kasi nakita ko talaga na sincere sila at bumabati talaga.
Para kabaguan sa atong bayan.
Ibiboto ko lang yan sila para sa pagbabago ng ating bayan. Sawa na kasi tayo sa mga nagdaang panahon at mga lumang politiko.
Sawa na tayo sa mga...
Celebrities, meanwhile, have also started to chime in on all the election fanfare. In a post on X, actress Ann Curtis expressed support for Akbayan party list in response to a video posted by attorney Chel Diokno, Akbayan's first nominee. Diokno greeted Curtis by saying, "Happy belated birthday, Ann. Sana ang birthday mo ay maging Ankabogable." Salamat sa pag-retweet ng 3 beses sa ating kampanya. Mag-akbayan po tayo, kapag mahal mo, akbayan mo. To which the actress replied, "Maraming salamat po, Sir Chel Diokno. Let's go, Akbayan Party." ML Party List has also gotten its first celebrity supporter. The party list, led by former Senator Laila De Lima, released a video of actress Nadine Lustre endorsing them.
Real talk. Sawa na ba kayo?
As the most corrupt in the country's history.
Sawa na sa mga abusado sa kapangyarihan? Sa mga nasa pwesto na hindi marunong magpaliwanag kung saan napunta ang pera ng bayan? Nakakapagod. Pero may laban tayo. ML na ako. Tara, ML na din kayo.
Okay, at this point, let's bring in Attorney John Rex Laudianco, COMELEC spokesperson. He's joining us via phone. Good evening, Attorney Laudianco. Thanks for being back with us.
Good evening po, Ma'am Medina, Ma'am Pauline, and Ma'am Sean, at sa lahat po natin taga-subaybay.
Attorney, first off, let me confirm that President Marcos has signed the motion to move the BARM elections to October 13. Is that correct? Kasi we haven't gotten confirmation from Malacanang. That's why I'm asking you.
That is correct. The Office of the President has transmitted to us today the copy of the law signed by the President, confirming that the BARM parliamentary elections is rescheduled and set to October 13, 2025 po.
Okay, Attorney Rex, quick follow-ups lang about that. What's going to happen now, no? As we have reported, 7 of the 80 seats in the BARM Parliament was allotted for Sulu. Now that Sulu has been pulled out, what's going to happen? Magkakaroon ba? There's also been talks of baka mag-plebiscite ulit. Is that possible? Can you tell us what the timeline is? Because October isn't so far away.
Okay, the law itself states that it's up to the Bangsamoro transition to determine whether or not to reapportion the 7 seats of Sulu. So if they would be doing that, the COMELEC would be opening the filing of certificates of candidacy exclusively for that. The law also states that those who have filed their certificates of candidacy will already be considered as the candidate for the October 13 BARM parliamentary elections, and no changes will be allowed. And changes will be allowed only in cases of death or disqualification of the original candidate or nominee.
Okay, so basically hantayin natin yung Bangsamoro Transition Committee na mag-decide kung anong magyayari doon sa 7 seats before we can proceed, but that the existing COCs that were filed in October will be valid for the upcoming BARM polls, right?
Tama po. Kung ano po yung mga candidates doon for the legislative districts at yung parties and the nominees who had manifested their intent to participate will be the same as included in the ballots po.
What is the significance of the date? Hindi ba it's a little late? It's October 13, di ba? It's my birthday, by the way. But that's all. I'll never forget it. But why push it out so late?
Di naman po, no? But this matters are really left to the wisdom and judgment of the legislature and the executive. Kami naman po sa COMELEC, ipapatupad lang po namin po anong law. Ang nangyari lang naman po ngayon, we had deferred and postponed the printing of the BARM parliamentary ballot. At maganda po yun, hindi po tayo nasayangan ng balota. At ito naman po, ipapagpatuloy lang namin sa October 13. Isa pa po sa nakalagay sa batas, this election will not be considered a special election, but a continuation of the 2025 national and local elections po.
What about implications sa budget, Attorney Rex? Magkakaroon ba tayo ng konting tweaks doon, or will the budget remain the same? Because I remember there was an argument from the COMELEC no, na pag sinabay sa midterm elections, parang mas efficient siya or mas mura, mas economical. Can we still expect that, or will the budget go up just a little bit because of the postponement?
Nakalagay din po sa law na yung pong appropriations ng 2025 NLE, yung pong budget namin sa taong ito, ay isa rin magiging budget po ng ating BARM parliamentary election sa October. Wala pong new appropriations. Ang sinabi lang po dun sa batas, actually, it's Republic Act 12123. Republic Act 12123. Sinabi din po doon sa DBM na tulungan na lang ang COMELEC na hanapin kung saan man makakakuha dun sa budget na meron na po kami ngayon 2025 to fund the October 13 parliamentary election.
Well, Attorney, there is one group that pointed out na yung postponement nga po ng BARM polls could prolong violence. Does the COMELEC have any measures in place or additional measures to ensure na wala pong magkakaroon na election violence sa rehiyon?
So po, isa po sa maganda siguro na nangyari dito is that come October 13, mas makapag-focus po ang COMELEC, including the law enforcement forces, na mas mapaparami po namin yung tao doon. Specifically, tutukan po namin yung security situation. Given that this will be the first, isa rin po itong pagkakataon, we'll take this an opportunity to educate more our voters po patungkol what is BARM parliamentary elections all about. Ilan ba talaga yung hahalal nila? Ano ang magiging function sila? So we're taking it in stride. Ito po yung gagawin namin sa mga susunod na buwan, lalong-lalo na pag nakatapos na po tayo ng May 12 national and local elections.
Okay, lipat naman tayo sa mas malapit na eleksyon, ng upcoming May midterm elections. Of course, the newest thing that we heard and what we were discussing here yesterday in the studio was the new rules on election surveys. Can you tell us how this is going? Nakapag-register na ba ang mga survey companies?
Magsisimula na po sila mag-register sa atin. Yung alam naman po natin na talagang merong legitimate survey companies at meron din po mga survey companies, more or less legitimate, kung hindi man legitimate, pero ginagawa nila ang kanilang survey, hindi para to get the pulse of the people, kundi para maging parte ng kanilang campaign. In fact, lopsided or biased. Yun po ang thrust ng ating resolution na ito, na para masiguro na kung ano man po yung lalabas na survey, it's not there to influence or to create a trend, but really to determine the pulse of the people.
But it only will prohibit publishing to the public, meaning kumbaga yung circulation nito, will that also be a violation kapag pinakalat mo on the ground habang nangangampanya?
That's correct. Kasama po yun. Kasi nga po yung publication, yun naman po talaga yung means para po at pakalat ito. And that includes not just the traditional media, but also in the social media. Kaya nga po mahigpit ang resolution na sinasabi na kapag ka nilabag po ito, ay maaring magdulot hindi lamang ng disqualification ng kandidato na nag-commission ito, kundi po pagpa-file ng election offense cases both sa candidate na nagpa-commission at yung po mismo sa survey companies. Dahil nga po ang thrust nito is to ensure fairness in the election at walang propagation ng false information.
Attorney, what will happen doon po sa mga survey firms na nakapag-conduct na po ng mga ng kanilang survey before the resolution was passed? Bale, bawal na po nila ito ilabas? Tama po ba kung hindi sila registered?
So, kung ito po, pag na-implement na po natin yung law, ito pong resolution, kailangan po sumailalim muna sila doon sa ating registration dahil pumasok na po tayo sa election period. Yun naman po mga surveys na nauna na, i-publish na, wala naman pong problema dahil prospective naman po ang application ng ating resolution.
On another issue, Attorney Laudianco, yung disqualification case against the Tulfos on the grounds that they are a political dynasty, what are we... when do we expect a decision on that?
Chairman Garcia had committed po that the decision of the Commission and Bank as regards this case will be out before the elections po. Yan naman po yung commitment namin na sana lahat ng issues, lahat ng pending cases before us, ma-resolve na po lahat yan. Para po yung ating mga kababayan na boboto, kahit paano wala ng agam-agam kung iboboto ba nila o hindi yung mga pangalan ng mga kandidato na nandoon po sa balota.
May mga lumalabas kasi, attorney, na mga by second or third week of March daw ang desisyon. Is that a date that you can commit to or chismis lang ba yun?
Hindi naman po. Naging optimistic lang naman po si Chairman Garcia na hopefully, dahil nga po pagsasubmitin na namin sa kanila ng mga position papers at memoranda at kung hindi naman po kinakailangan ng clarificatory hearings pa, tama naman po yun. Maari po ma-resolve talaga within March ang kasong ito.
Because, yung timeline niyo po of before elections, it's crucial because we're talking about two of the leading contenders in pre-election survey, so it will change everything should you decide against them, right? So again, can we hold you to that for now, second and third week of March?
Hindi naman po siguro we cannot hold the Commission and Bank to that. Ang binigay naman po ni Chairman Garcia ay siguro isang very optimistic timeline kung saan sarili nila po ang nag-commit sila. But then again po, maraming pwedeng mangyari. Depende po. Sabi nga po namin, itong bagay na ito, kung hindi kakailanganin ng clarificatory hearings, kung magiging sapat na yung maisasubmit na position papers at memoranda sa kasong ito, bakit hindi? Maari nga matapos ng March. Pero kung tignan po natin, kung kakailanganin talaga ng hearings, maari po sigurong umurong ng konti.
Topic of election violations. Medyo more than 1 week na tayong nasa official national campaign period, Attorney Rex. Before, pinag-uusapan natin yung mga bawal, napakadaming bawal. Meron na bang mga nagre-report? Kamusta naman ang mga nag-report ng illegal posters? May nag-report na ba ng vote buying? Marami na ba?
Meron na pong 4 na cases na iniimbestigahan ng Committee on Contrabigay ni Commissioner Ernesto Ferdinand Noceda. Meron po kasi mga reports na sila ay nagbabalidate na po kung may naganap talaga na vote buying. Patungkol naman po dun sa mga ibang bagay, tuloy-tuloy ang ating Operation Baklas. Tuloy-tuloy din po yung pagpapadala ng aming mga local offices dun sa mga kandidato po, national positions na kinakitaan po ng either unlawful campaign materials or illegally posted campaign materials. Alam naman po natin na talagang pagdating sa sizes, pagdating sa lugar na binilalagay po ang ating mga campaign materials, nakasaad po ito sa batas at kailangan sundin ng bawat kandidato.
Attorney, tama po ba na some forms of bullying are also now considered as election offenses? Ano po yung basehan nun and what penalties could these candidates face if they are found guilty of that?
Opo, ito nga pong resolution namin na nilabas na anti-discrimination, anti-bullying, pating-tating po sa ating pagkakampanya, ay specifically geared to implement the Magna Carta for Women, the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act, the Philippine AIDS HIV Patients Act, pati na rin po yung ating Safe Spaces Act, at iba pang mga laws na existing laws na patungkol sa laban sa bullying, laban sa discrimination. Kailangan po kasi kung meron tayo dito, dapat ganun din ang pamamaraan sa pangangampanya. Again po, all of these are in pursuit of fair elections to level the playing field at maging maayos man po yung ating kampanyahan. Hindi po gagamitin ang pangangampanya para atakihin, ibuli o ang ating isang mga kababayan dahil lang po sa kanilang paniniwala o dahil sa kanilang mga kinikilingan.
Nangyayari ba talaga yan, Attorney Rex? Kasi kung gagawin ninyong polisiya, no, ibig sabihin may mga instances. Can you give us a use case, an actual example, kahit walang names na, ano bang nagyayari dito sa bullying? At para lang alam nating lahat, no, kung mayroon tayong na-witness, pwede pala talaga itong i-report as an actual election or campaign offense violation.
For example po, member po ng LGBTQA, IA, yung ating isang kandidato at merong kandidato po na magne-negative campaign sa kanya just because of that. Talaga, wag iboto yan dahil members na gano'n. That's a violation of this resolution. It's also a violation of the Safe Spaces Act. Yung name calling, yung tagging, yung cat calling natin. Pati nga po yung mga labeling sa mga terrorist groups at iba pa ay maaring maituring po na violation po ng ating resolution. So kung makikita nyo po ito, hindi nagkasa ang COMELEC ng panibagong batas, ngunit ini-implement lang po natin ang mga existing ng laws against bullying and against discrimination sa panahon ng kampanyahan. Wala pong pinagkaiba to dun sa aming Environmentally Sustainable Resolution Act kung saan po na ini-implement naman po natin yung iba't ibang batas patungkol sa environment. Ganon din po yung thrust ng survey na ini-implement din po natin patungkol ang Fair Elections Act.
With regard to vote buying, gusto ko lang to balikan, no, Attorney Rex, because I think since we switched to automated elections, medyo ito na yung kumbaga primary way na tinatawag ng mga tao, ito na yung paano tayo nandaraya, kumbaga quote-unquote, right? What can you tell people, no, mga botante, how to watch out for vote buying? How many forms can it come in? And then how do they report such incidents? Ganun din ba? May message lang kayo sa Facebook, email? Kasi medyo mabibigat na paratang to eh.
Tama po, no? Una po sa lahat, yung ating po kasing definition ng vote buying under Section 261A ng Omnibus Election Code ay napakalawak. Giving anything of value, giving money or giving any promise or gift, even employment, even a franchise, the purpose of which is to solicit a vote for a particular candidate or not to vote a particular candidate. So, kumbaga po, kahit anong ibigay na ang intensyon ay para makakuha ng boto, maituturing pong vote buying yan. Kaya nga po itong pamamaraan natin ay dun sa aming resolution, nilabas na namin pati yung iba po ng mga presumptions. Makitaan ng 500,000 2 days before the election, hindi man paliwanag ba't may dala-dala siyang perang ganun kalaki at may mga campaign paraphernalia, namimigay po sa bahay ng mga groceries. Yan lahat po ituturing namin na presumption po ng vote buying. Pinadali po ng COMELEC ang pagre-report ng vote buying. Yes, it's very serious. Kaya nga po, iniingatan namin ang identities na magre-report sa amin para maingganyo po na ma-report sa COMELEC ang mga bagay na to. Pag natanggap po namin ang report, ibabalidate namin. Ang hiling lang namin sa ating mga kababayan, maibigay sana yung detalye ng tama. Saan, kailan nangyari, sinong involved, anong ebidensya maaaring makita para naman po ang law enforcement agencies makapag-case build up, makakuha ng ebidensya ng sa gayon, COMELEC na po mismo ang magsasampa ng kaso ng election offense.
Speaking of grocery bags, handing out grocery bags, may guidelines na po, Attorney, on the distribution of ACAP?
Tama po, kalalabas lang po ng Resolution 11-118 kung saan 10 araw po bago mag-eleksyon. Ang una po kasing resolution, kait lang po ang pinagbabawal 10 days before the election. Ngayon po, kasama na po ang tupad, kasama na ang ACAP, kasama na rin po yung iba't ibang uri ng forms o ng ayuda. So lahat po ng ayuda ay bawal na po pagdating ng 10 araw bago maghalalan. That's May 2 to May 12. So ito pong pagpapatupad natin na to ay nire-reinforce lang yung ating intensyon na hindi naman i-deprive yung ating mga kababayan sa mga ayudang ito. Ngunit para masiguro na hindi magagamit ang ayuda para maging paraan sa vote buying, hindi maabuso ang ating state resources. Kung titignan niyo po yung Resolution 11-118, nakasaad din po dito na hindi naman ipinagbabawal yung pong mga yung mga tulong na kinakailangan talaga. Halimbawa, emergency sa hospitalization, yung mga burial, hindi naman po yan. Ang pinagbawal lang po yung straight up na ayuda tulad ng ACAP, AIC, yung MAIP, yung tupad, tsaka yung 4P. Yan lang naman po mga ayuda ang pinagbabawal.
Parang ano kasi, attorney, that's the easy part, no? The hard part is how do we enforce na yung rules are strictly followed? Napakadaming local governments and local government officials who will be supposedly the ones doing the distributing. Paano naman natin babantayan ang lahat ng yan? Ito yung age-old question lagi na binabato sa inyo dyan sa COMELEC.
Opo, ito dalawa po. So pwede naman po mag-report ang ating mga kababayan. Ikalawa, minomonitor po namin dahil obligado po ang lahat ng agencies na kumuha sa amin at nabigyan ng exemption sa disbursement of public funds at ng ating mga social services. Obligado po silang mag-submit sa amin ng reports patungkol sa activity, hindi lamang po kung pagkano, sinong recipient, kundi kailan yung distribution ng mga ito. Dinagdag pa nga po namin sa condition na yung guidelines ay dapat ma-submit sa COMELEC at dapat maipatupad nila. At ikalawa po, yung mas mabigat na condition, sa lahat po ng pamimigay na gagawin nila prior to the total ban, yung 10 days po, dapat walang presence ng politiko or candidate in whatever form or kind. Hindi pwede kahit na staff nila, yung mga posters, yung mga bags na iba pa, bawal na bawal po yan. At ang sabi po namin, kapag may natuklasan po kami na ganyan at na-validate namin, dalawa ang bagay na gagawin ng COMELEC. Magkaso ng administratibo laban doon sa kandidato para sila ma-disqualify at magkaso ng election offense. Kasong kriminal po ito, both sa agency at doon po doon sa kandidato. Nang sa gayon, maparusahan po sila ng pagkakakulong na 1 hanggang 6 na taon, pagkakatanggal ng kanilang karapatang bumoto at perpetual disqualification to hold public office.
Oh, perpetual disqualification again. Attorney, can you explain what the rationale is for the 10 days cut-off? I mean, there are reports that it's already happening now, right? Bakit 10 days lang po yung yung limit?
Ganito po, yung ban po kasi ng disbursement of public funds and social services will take effect on March 28. That is 45 days before the election. Kaya po kung makikita nyo ngayon, bagamat kumuha na sila ng exemption sa amin, hindi pa po ipinapatupad yung condition. Dahil nga po ang ban po under the Omnibus Election Code, again, Section 261, ay papasok lamang sa March 28. Now, starting March 28 hanggang May 1 po, maaari nilang ma-distribute yan subject to the 5 conditions na nabanggit ko na. But starting May 2 hanggang May 12, kahit pa may exemption sila, yan sa ayuda na yan, 4Ps, MAIP, TUPAD, AIX, AKAP, bawal na po nilang ituloy. Again, pwede nilang gawin ng distribution March 28 up to May 1, basta nagko-comply sa conditions at napa-exempt ito sa COMELEC. But starting March 2 hanggang May 2 hanggang May 12, kahit may exemption, bawal pong mamigay ng mga naturang ayuda.
Okay, we'll leave it there for now. We'll bring you up back another time to talk about the other electoral issues. Thank you so much for your time. COMELEC spokesperson, Attorney Rex Laudianco.
Time to pause for another quick break for now, but right after that, the Bangko Sentral pulls off another surprise, reducing reserve requirement ratios of banks. We'll tell you by how many basis points when we return. Keep it here. Welcome back. Thanks for sticking around with us here on The Big Story.
In business news, the Bangko Sentral pulled another surprise today. It announced a jumbo reduction to big banks' reserve requirement ratios, taking it down by 200 points to 5%. At the same time, the RRR for digital banks was slashed by 150 basis points to 2.5%. And for thrift banks, they won't be required to hold any funds against their deposits anymore. These will all take effect March 28. And what this essentially does is reduce the amount of money that banks have to hold as standby funds, which means they will have more cash to lend out to consumers.
We are also still closely watching the health of Pope Francis. The latest word from the Vatican says the pontiff is slightly improving as he continues to battle double pneumonia. This marks the second day that his condition has been described as stable. Here at home, several vigils were held for the Pope. Jose Cardinal Advincula led a holy hour for the healing of Pope Francis at the Manila Cathedral at 5 this afternoon. At the same time, CBCP President Pablo Virgilio Cardinal David celebrated a special mass at the Cathedral of San Roque in Caloocan City. In Cebu, Archbishop Jose Palma led a Eucharistic vigil for the Pope's recovery.
Habang naghihirap siya, ito tayo, no, inaalalayan natin siya sa ating mga panalangin. No? We can't go to Rome or to Gemelli to visit him, but this community prayer, this hour of prayer is a big help for him.
While shifting gears, Manila Electric Company, or Meralco, took home 10 silver anvils at this year's 60th Anvil Awards. The MVP-led company was recognized for its excellence in communication, with more notable campaigns like Goodbye Spaghetti Wires and With Great Power Comes Great Reliability. Meralco's efforts in employee development, public service, and corporate social responsibility also earned awards, with one Meralco Foundation winning 2 of the 10 silver anvils. Anvil Awards, organized by the Public Relations Society of the Philippines, is the country's top recognition for public relations excellence.
Okay, congratulations to Meralco, but we would also like to recognize efforts to keep this very important part of our history alive. Tonight's Big Picture captures preparations for the EDSA Revolution, which marks its 39th anniversary on February 25. Photographs from Michael Vargas of the Philippine Stars show the DPWH workers sprucing up the People Power Monument. President Bongbong Marcos had earlier declared February 25 a special working holiday, which means that offices, businesses, and schools will remain open. It was a move seen by some as controversial, given that on that day in 1986, his family was ousted from Malacanang by the Popular Revolt. Several religious organizations and even educational institutions are defying the working holiday. Schools have suspended classes on Tuesday next week to allow their students and staff to join EDSA celebrations, among them the University of the Philippines, all LaSalle schools, the University of Santo Tomas, St. Pedro Poveda College, and Xavier School. And I'm going to add my alma mater, Immaculate Conception Academy, because they also canceled classes. We are an EDSA consortium school.
I was gonna say, even your alma mater. It's actually a pretty long list.
It's gotten long.
We've got schools in the outskirts as well. In Baguio, in Cebu, Colegio de Immaculada Concepcion, St. Bridget, Philippine Normal University, Notre Dame, and so on and so forth. It's a very long list.
And it only
Because
started
of-
with De La Salle, all
Correct.
De La Salle schools, and then the EDSA schools.
They will commemorate
they will
it by
commemorate.
not holding classes.
Yes. But I think, like when I was growing up, we never had classes on Feb 25. We always had extra work to do. An essay, an artwork, some group work.
Now it became a special working holiday, which
Which
is
is
a bit of
made
a
up.
misnomer.
Yeah, it's a made-up holiday.
Don't you mean special non-working holiday? But it became
so
a special working...
It's sui generis.
Siya
lang yung
in a
ganon.
class of its own.
Well, it's one thing for sure. We have work. We always have work, even on holidays
We
here
always
in
have
media.
work. That's true, sadly.
Okay, but it is Friday, so tomorrow we don't have work. So that's it for the big story tonight.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.
Well, do stay tuned because some people do have work. Coming up next, Play-by-Play with Andre Felix and Cheska Liton Calao. Happy Friday, guys.
Happy Friday. But see, now I have to check if Colegio San Agustin actually has class on Feb 25 as well.
Let us see. They're not
What
in
are the
the
results?
so
Our alma
far.
matters.
Alma mater, dear San Agustin, let me know.
So, wait, I have a question. Kung magkaanak kami ng babae, masasuggest nyo, ika ba o sa CSA?
Why hindi kung magbabakasyon kayo ng Feb 20?
School nila, St. Paul tayo.
Ayan, St. Paul kasi. Eh, gusto ko makita yung reaction mo eh. Uy, sa atin na yun eh. Sa atin na yun, pwede na mag-high school ang babae.
Yes.
Oo, pwede na.
St. Paul's just
Nung
there.
panahon ko, all boys pa eh. So.
Sa Lasal Green Hills, super dami ng babae ngayon. Nakakatuwa siya.
Co-ed.
Yeah, it's co-ed.
Ateneo tayo.
Kaya magkabila ang box tayo.
Ayaw niya.
Kahit mas malapit.
This is why you can't sit together on the same show. Mag-handover ka na. Sige, take it away, guys.
But thank you again
Thank you.
for a great show. Great week. Happy weekend to you girls, to Sean, to Reg, and to Pawi. On the show, on Play-by-Play, we've got updates from the NBA, including a tough break for Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs. That hurts. Plus, the aftermath of Gilas Pilipinas' loss to Chinese Taipei in the FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers.
And we've got the latest scores from the Spikers turf as a new conference begins.
Fact Show again on a Friday. I'm Andre Felix.
And I'm Cheska Latungkalo.
And here's tonight's Play-by-Play.
Puts it on the left side. Oh, the pass! Another one! Bacuna's rejecting. Espejo for the